So imagine you have a great idea for a t-shirt. You want to sell the t-shirt online at your own website and you want to find a supplier in China that can make your t-shirt. How do you find a supplier that you know will have high quality, deliver on time, and is good to do business with? If you search for Alibaba scam, you find elaborate posts about people describing how to not get scammed on Alibaba. It's apparently pretty common. In this video, I want to talk about how marketplaces like Alibaba are designing for trust. And Alibaba is just one example of a company that are designing for trust. There are a ton of other examples like Airbnb, eBay, and Amazon. So Alibaba is an online marketplace that helps companies buy directly from wholesalers. So if I'm looking to sell my own t-shirts, I can buy 1,000, 10,000, or whatever quantity of t-shirts I want directly from the wholesaler. So the critical question is, who should I buy from? And the role of Alibaba is to help me make an informed decision in that question, right? In a paper from Harvard professor Michael Luca, he is laying out what he's calling an economist's toolkit to designing marketplaces. And he talks about two topics. How should a review system be designed? And what information should the buyer and seller have to provide in this marketplace? So let's look at Alibaba again from the perspective of that particular t-shirt entrepreneur. In the Alibaba platform that you see here, there are tons of information that the buyer have about the seller. Things like the response rate for messages, years in business, transaction volume, and whether you're a gold member or not. And these things show the behavior of the supplier in quantitative terms. For instance, it is highly unlikely that a supplier with 9 years of experience as a gold member with high transaction value and good reviews all of a sudden just started to scam people. Another thing Alibaba does is that it offers validations of suppliers on different levels. The AMV check is the most basic one, where the company only has to give away name and contact information. And assess supplier is the most thorough one, where Alibaba even will go to that particular business and make sure that it exists in that location. In economic terms, the information provided are supposed to decrease the information asymmetry between the buyer and the seller. In other words, before I go on to the Alibaba platform, I don't even know that these particular suppliers exist. But the more I look at the Alibaba platform, the more I start to gain information that I can use to make an informed decision about my specific purchase. So by looking at things like years in business and whether Alibaba has verified the business, the buyer can make a more informed decisions than they would have done without this information. And then you have ratings, which shows whether people are happy with that particular supplier in a variety of categories. The interesting part with online marketplaces is how buyers in previous transactions are part of assessing the quality of the sellers. So if you take an Uber, every previous rider of that particular driver is assessing the quality of that particular driver. And if you look at the supplier at Alibaba, all the previous customers have already assessed the quality of that particular supplier. So the risk is decreased not by internal quality control, but by previous customers. So the Alibaba's advantage in the market is that they collect more feedback and information than everyone else about the suppliers. So think about starting a similar marketplace. It would be very hard to replicate something like having 10 years of transaction data between buyers and sellers. This creates a winner-takes-all market. For the average consumer, it is typically better to go with a supplier that already has a lot of transactions history logged. And this has been found quantitatively too. Typically, more experienced sellers can charge higher prices and get more business from the average consumer. And this effect is not only true for the suppliers on the platform, but the platform itself. Alibaba has 58% of the e-commerce revenue in China, and Amazon has 49% of the e-commerce in the States. The winner takes all. If you like this video, please consider subscribing.